Always, as we now bring it back into the studio and get the reaction from Robbie and Tim. Well, we have been debating this on and off for months. Ultimately, it looks like Carrick, rightly so, I think, is going to get the job at Manchester United. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. Done so well. He's in the running for Manager of the Year. I noticed yesterday, which was incredible. And when often we see people appointed, you know, sometimes you scratch your head and think this doesn't fit. It's the opposite with Manchester United. You just feel what he's done at this group, what he's brought back to this football club is a winning football. It's exciting football again, and he's got the club going in the right direction. Now, he's got some big decisions to go. And it's interesting how being an interim and being a full-time manager might be different. He's got to get the right recruitment in and bring the right players. He's got to get rid of the deadwood, the players that he doesn't want, and get them out of the building. And then he's got to imprint his style of football on this football club to take them forward. But there's going to be more games. They've got to go better in domestic competitions, and then Europe's going to add more games as well. So he's going to have problems he's going to have to deal with, but it seems to me they've got the right man.
Well, that was going to be my question, Tim. How do you think he will balance having Europe on the agenda next season as well as the domestics?
We don't know. We don't know. And I think I speak for you, Ursula. We were sort of in the camp that, like, no matter what happens, go look further afield and bring in a different manager. No disrespect to Carrick. But Carrick hasn't done just enough. He's done more than enough. And he's finished a strong third. He's got the spirit of the fans back on side. Mikel Arteta did a similar thing at Arsenal where the spirit of the fans were sort of back. People around the club who work in and around the club seem to love him. The players definitely love him. He's getting results on the pitch. The football's better. He's improving players. So he's done more than enough. When it first sort of got floated, and I think Gary Neville mentioned it, that maybe one 18-month contract, 2-year contract, I think that's probably the way to go with him, because this, you know, signing someone who we don't know how they're going to handle the Champions League, which is important, as you said, to Manchester United, you can't sign them to a 4-year contract. He has to figure out how to balance the squad. And by the way, they need a lot of players, like not a full overhaul, but they need 2 or 3 defenders in the back four. They need 1 or 2 attackers, and they need probably 1 or 2 midfielders. And again, they won't get all of those, but there's a lot that needs to go on. And is he going to be a part of that recruitment process? Probably, but it's a challenge.
Yeah, well, now likely he will be, given that they're hoping to lock up this contract in these final stages sooner rather than later. It'd be good if they could get it done and announce it on Sunday, because that, of course, will be their last home game of the season at Old Trafford. So you heard David Ornstein mention it a little bit about those summer targets. Anyone particularly you have your eye on?
Elliot Anderson would be perfect. And in many ways, Elliot Anderson is a Michael Carrick. Didn't get that much credit as a player in a great team. And Elliot Anderson would be a player that sit next to Kobbie Mainoo, and you would build a team around those two.
David Ornstein, and I have to ask David, has he done enough to secure the job full-time?
He has indeed, Cara. Just before coming to air, I reported that Manchester United and Michael Carrick have a broad agreement in place for him to become the new permanent head coach of Manchester United. Now, work is continuing between all parties to try and finalise the contracts, not only of Carrick, but also his coaching staff, led, of course, by Steve Holland, who has been so impressive in that role by his side. And we may even see more additions in time to really bolster that backroom team. The contract that has been proposed to Michael Carrick spans 2 years plus the option of a further 12 months. And this will be part of the deliberations as we speak. But evidently, it is now moving at a pace. And let's see if it gets done in time for Manchester United's match on Sunday and whether he can be announced. It's not really fair to put deadlines on these things because they're intricate negotiations. But the direction of travel is now clear. And Manchester United are set to make Michael Carrick their full-time head coach. It would be the culmination of what United say has been a thorough process. I'm sure they will have looked at and maybe spoken to some other candidates. But Carrick coached himself into this role. His work has spoken for itself. Your results that you read out there show that he has done a good job. But it's not only that. It's also that he's very popular among players and staff, executives at Old Trafford for what he has done, but also the way he carries himself. Of course, the market would have played a factor as well. Who could Manchester United have got hold of that is said to be better than Carrick. Maybe a Thomas Tuchel, Luis Enrique, Carlo Ancelotti, but none of them are available. And so then you're going, with all due respect to the Iriolas of this world, Thomas Frank, Oliver Glasner, sorry, not Thomas Frank, I meant to say Marco Silva, and you're maybe thinking to yourself that Michael Carrick is entitled to be getting this job on merit. And I think that's a key thing here. It wasn't that he was the last man standing, he was the choice of Manchester United. He has earned this role, and he will now be charged with taking them forward in what's a critical summer and future.
Yeah, he's almost done everything that was asked of him when he came in as interim manager, hasn't he? That's great news. And if they can't announce it this Sunday, then maybe Championship Sunday. We will see what happens there. So speaking of the summer then, if Carrick is going to stay at the helm in terms of the head coach position, what targets do they have as they look to rebuild a little bit, perhaps, ahead of next season?
Yeah, we mentioned there that it is going to be a really big summer at Manchester United, because not only do they have Michael Carrick close to being confirmed at the helm, but also they've now got Champions League football to contend with, and their ambitions in the Premier League are high too, domestic competitions as well. So they're going to have many more fixtures. The expectations are going to be raised as well. We know that Manchester United are focusing on that midfield area. Casemiro will be leaving the club, maybe Manuel Ugarte too. They probably already needed to be bolstered in that department, even though Kobbie Mainoo has signed a new contract at the club. So we could see one or two players coming into that area of the field. We know that Elliot Anderson has been a key target for Manchester United, but it's unclear whether they'll be able to land him because of whatever potential valuation that Nottingham Forest put on him, because of rivalry from the likes of Manchester City and maybe others. I've also reported today that Nottingham Forest intend to keep hold of all of their key players this summer. As things stand, we'll see how it develops. They're also looking to hand a new contract to their head coach, Vitor Pereira. Elsewhere in midfield, the likes of Tchouaméni at Real Madrid is maybe one to keep an eye on. People have talked about the likes of Baleba and Wharton, various other options in there. I'm not sure how likely some of those are, but they will have candidates for the position. And also the attacking left forward area. Marcus Rashford likely to leave. Jadon Sancho leaving, so who might come in that role? Rasmus Højlund is going to be joining Napoli on a permanent basis, and so we could see further strengthening in that final third of the pitch for Manchester United. Further back, we've had news today that Matthijs de Ligt has undergone surgery for a back problem. Many people may say that could send Manchester United into the market for central defence. I don't think so as a result of that news, because the surgery is said to have gone well. He will be back early in the season, is the hope. If somebody leaves, then of course maybe replacing will be on the agenda, but I don't think it is forefront of their minds at the moment. There will be other areas too, because they need to build that squad out, and Michael Carrick will be inputting, he already is, into that process and those decisions. I don't expect it to be a summer of lavish spending, talk of war chests and unlimited outlay. That's just not realistic. They will continue to be prudent, they say, and diligent and measured in what they do, as we saw last summer. And there are no release clauses of players they're looking at, from what I am aware of, as there were this time last year in terms of Matheus Cunha. So although work will be taking place early and they'll try and get stuff done as soon as possible, I don't think any imminent action is taking place. But with the head coach in the process of being sorted, they can get on with that crucial recruitment work ahead of attacking next season.
Yeah, step one is almost done. David, thank you for your insight to us.
Michael Carrick, meanwhile, looks like he will be the permanent manager at Manchester United. That's what we're hearing. A 2-year deal is to be offered to the man who currently is, of course, the interim coach at Old Trafford. Done a great job, led them into the Champions League next season. Craig, when we've discussed in the past, you said, look, just give me a year, see what happens. Does this really make a difference? 1 year, 2 year?
Look, Man United fans get their knickers in a twist. When you
just Man United fans.
Well, all right, everybody. When you even discuss the fact that somebody outside Michael Carrick might get the job.
Yes.
It's like a siege mentality. But I don't have an issue with Michael Carrick getting the job. I don't. It's a roll of the dice. This club will tell you, looking back at previous appointments, Amorim, Solskjaer, Van Gaal, Mourinho, experienced to less experienced to even less with Solskjaer. It's a roll of a dice here. So I don't have an issue with it, because he's done a very good job. Do I think necessary? And I said this before, a month ago, and this is when United fans got upset. You can have done a great job, but not necessarily be the best man for the job. The two things can be true. For example, Areola's out there, Alonso's out there. Okay, unlikely to manage United because he's a Liverpool player. But he's thrown his hat in the ring, and if that's the way United want to go, I personally don't have an issue with it. Do I think there are better managers out there that are potentially available? I do, but this is the decision they've made, and if it goes wrong, then obviously they'll be criticised.
I think he's earned the right to be the manager. He's took them from where they were playing particularly poorly. We always kept on saying, and I remember having an argument with Don Hutchinson on air when he kept on saying, the players aren't good enough, no manager can take them on. Well, Michael Carrick has taken on the same players and done a fairly decent job with them. They weren't bad players. They weren't the best players.
Right.
But their sort of recruitment wasn't as bad as everybody was saying. It was easy to say the players are rubbish. The manager's not at fault. The manager was at fault, and Michael Carrick has done a decent job.
But one second, this is Man United, right? Who want to get back to the top of the tree in England and Europe. The argument would be, Robbo, yeah, I don't disagree. He's done brilliant. He picked up the slack. And by the way, Omar Baradi and Jason Wilcox and all these behind the scenes that were getting pelters, if it had gone the other way, they wouldn't even have been able to sit and watch a game at Old Trafford. So they were sitting there, they were wiping the sweat when it started to go better. But it still doesn't get away from the fact this is Man United, and is he the best man
Going to
out
your
there?
point about Areola, now there's somebody that has done it and proved himself in the Premier League. When they've gone and got managers from abroad before, they would, Amorim, he's done so well in Portugal, he's this manager, he's that manager. When he came over, then he couldn't cope with it, and he couldn't cope with the players, he couldn't cope with the systems of play that other teams are playing, whatever it was, he couldn't cope with it. So maybe a manager like Areola, who has done it in the Premier League for a couple of seasons, might be better.
But have we seen examples of that in the past with, say, a Thomas Frank taking the step up? Obviously,
but
Graham Potter as well, making the step up.
Before we go into them, I don't have an issue, and I mean this in all sincerity, I don't have an issue with this decision. It is a roll of a dice. But what I would say, and it was the same thing with Solskjaer, was if there was any other of these elite clubs, and United, although they haven't been playing elite football the last few years, certainly are an elite level club. There's no getting away from that. But if any of these other clubs in any league were looking for a manager, would Michael Carrick be in the list for any of them? And the answer would be no. So it is a very difficult decision to make for Man United. And if they want to go that way, fine. But you can't have two sides to a story here. But, they're obviously rolling the dice the way they are.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think one thing about Carrick, in my opinion, is, I've been speaking to lots of United fans, and I'm almost throwing a bit of doubt in there, saying, are you sure this is the right guy? Is this the right fit?
You're doing that on purpose?
You're nasty.
Yeah, I'm like, is you sure this is the right thing? And every single one of them says, we want Carrick to stay. I think he's speaking their language, and some of the decisions that he's made through the season, they've just been really obvious.
But this is the same. This is the same support that when Eric Ten Hag won the FA Cup here, they were saying,
I don't remember that
give
game.
him more time.
And they
don't remember that game.
They wanted Solskjaer to carry on.
This is
and they gave him a new contract.
What happens when he has a blip? So far,
they'll give him because it's him. Because it's him, they'll
Yeah.
give him more time.
Right, I see.
Like I say, when they say he speaks his
You
language,
can only judge a manager when they start to have bad performances,
Yeah, for
bad
sure.
results,
Yeah.
and then you see how they react to that. How they react in the press, how they react on the pitch, what changes they make throughout games, what they do with the players, off the field. That's when you judge a manager. And at the moment, he hasn't been through that. He went through it at Middlesbrough slightly and got the sack.
yeah, obviously, two completely different clubs. But I think, in my mind, as I say, he's put Kobe Mainoo into the side.
Yes. Yep.
Amorim said previously he cannot play. He's not good enough. He's put Bruno Fernandes slightly further up. Fernandes might break the assist record this season. He's doing stuff which the fans like to see. They were winning games, and as the stats were showing, they've won 10 games since he's been in charge in the Premier League. That is as good as anybody.
But Nedham, he's doing stuff that almost everybody.
It's so simple.
Yeah, he's doing stuff that almost everybody's going, what is it? What? Why is he not? Why is he playing Fernandes as deep as he is? Why is he not doing it? Why is he not doing that? And I'm not taking away from what he's, but those things, he's gone back to basics. He went back to basics with the back four, with Maguire, and when Martinez came back in, he's got some performances out of from Heaven and Yoro. Shaw's been fit and better
the whole season.
And so he's and he's a smart guy. He's played the game at the highest level. He's looked at what he's got and thought, right, I need him there and him, and let's do the basics and we'll go from here. I think that is much easier when you're interim manager than when you get the job full time. The sort of pressure cranks up.
The problem we also have is when Craig saying they needed an elite manager for an elite club.